Active Investor here, bringing you another independent analysis. This time we're taking another look at ticker symbol DNAI, that's ProNAi Therapeutics Incorporated. This analysis is a follow-up to the analysis posted yesterday. And I just would like to preface this analysis. Well, before I get to that, let me just mention that this is once again a 4-hour time frame. Each candlestick representing 4 hours of trading on this chart, just like the last analysis. And now let me get to what I was just saying. I'm a little conflicted on how to do this analysis. On one hand, I wanted to do a shorter time frame since we've already seen basically this whole chart. We just have two new candles on it. Those two new candles, let me highlight those, of course being right here, the two most recent 4-hour candles that we have. Now, why I am conflicted, I was tempted to do a 5-minute or a 15-minute chart analysis for this stock, but the truth be told, on the intraday level, we really didn't have much movement at all in comparison to yesterday. It was almost an identical day. We stayed in the same trading range. We really didn't move much at all. We were trading between about 623 to about 650, so about a 5% trading range. There really wasn't much information to go off of based on that intraday time frame, the 5-minute or even a 15-minute time frame. So the reason why I'm sticking once again with the 4-hour time frame is so we can see what has been updated. So the only problem with that is that the reason why this 4-hour chart looks so good is because after hours there was a block sold with the volume of 1,694, and that candlestick was from a low of $6.77 with a high and a close at $6.81. Now the problem with that is that during the trading hours, this stock DNAI closed at $6.38. You can see on this last candle that we have, this really nice candle, $6.38 would be a little less than the open. It would be right about here, which is 635. That's where our fast moving average is, that 10-period moving average. So it would be somewhere between that line and this line. You're looking at the close somewhere between those two lines. It would probably be literally right about here, 638. Now, this 4-hour candle is showing that we closed at $6.81 because it's factoring in that after hours trading block. So listening to this analysis, you can look at it two ways. You can include that $6.80 after hours trading block, which makes this entire chart look a whole lot better, or you can not include that and this whole chart doesn't look so good. So it's very conflicting, honestly, and the reason why I'm hesitant to include that is because we only had one trading block after hours. It was only one candle and the volume was only 1,694. So that could tell you that someone fat fingered it, or they just paid a premium because there wasn't many shares being sold after hours. So it's really hard to give an exact analysis based on that information because technically the chart closed down here, but factoring in the after hours, we closed up here. So with all that said, let me just include the after hours trading block in the rest of this analysis, because if that buy was legitimate, this chart is looking really good. All right, now with all that out of the way, let's take a look at what the chart was like yesterday and what it's like today. So going down here to the relative strength index, before today, we were basically right around here on the RSI. We were right around the 40 line. We had just broken the 20 line and we were trying to leg up to that 40 line area, and we were still in no man's land. So what's great about the RSI now is that we have the fast moving average of the RSI above the 80 line. The slow red line isn't quite there yet, but it's a lot closer than it was yesterday when it was still down here. So the relative strength index is looking great. We're heading into the overbought area, which means we could start seeing a run, just like we saw back here when we were overbought. That's when we had that run. So we want to see our RSI go to overbought on this long frame, so we could see that the trend is indeed up. And so far the RSI is almost entirely overbought, so that's good. Now, another good thing to take a look at is the volume. You can see down here on the last two candles, that volume was really shooting up a lot. So the volume today did increase a lot compared to the last few days of trading where the volume was pretty low. Over here was high and it had some spikes here as well, but it did end up drying up after this area here. The volume really dried up, and today is the highest volume that we've seen in about a week or two. So the volume's looking really good. The relative strength index is looking good. The moving averages are still looking really good. On the last analysis, I posted that the moving averages were looking nice, and of course they still are. They're looking a little bit better even, since our close is so much higher above that 10-period moving average. It's really bullish. Now, of course, that does mean that you're factoring in that after-hours trading period. Otherwise, we closed basically right on the 10-period simple moving average, which is pretty interesting. But we've already discussed that, and right now we are factoring in that after-hours trade. So we didn't quite get to the price target of $6.90 that I was hoping for, but factoring in that after-hours trade, we did get pretty close to $6.90. So prospects for Monday, it's still going to be about the same thing that I posted in the last analysis, since we haven't really had any significant changes in price per share based on today's data. The same thing is in play. So let's say on Monday pre-market, there's a lot of hype for this stock and it starts running. What I would look for is an entrance of about $6.90 or even $7. And that's assuming that the price does indeed run. If it does run and it breaks above $7 and you can't buy pre-market, wait for a dip. There's probably going to be a dip after the market opens, and I would look for an entry around $6.90 or $7 and a stop loss real tight, because if that doesn't hold, you're looking at a dip down to $6, and that's a pretty hefty loss from $6.90 to $7, all the way down to $6. That's a loss that I would not want to take. So I would recommend having a tighter stop right below the support area if you're going to look for a buy-in around here if this thing does spike up. Now, there's a chance that if the phase 2 data is positive and this thing is running pre-market, that we completely bypass this entire area. For all I know, this thing could be trading at $8, $9, $10 a share on Monday, and that's not, we don't have any data to support that price range right now. As a matter of fact, the last time DNAI was trading in that range, let me just take a look. That was all the way back in February, January and February. So let's just kind of see here. I'm looking at a different chart, and actually it looks like the next level up after $7 is going to be $7.50 on the money. $7.50. So if you can't get in around $7 or $6.90, try to get in at $7.50. That would be your next stop up. Now, if this thing does run even more than $7.50, if it runs to $8, $9 and it doesn't pull back, well, honestly, I don't have any recommendation on where to get in then. It's going to solely be up to your discretion on what the stock has been doing on an intraday level on Monday. But assuming that it doesn't spike up too much, if it spikes up, to the mid $7 area, look for an entry at $6.90 or $7. And if it spikes up to $8 or, the mid $8 area, look for an entry at around $7.50 if it dips back there. And if it doesn't end up dipping that low, you really just need to look at the intraday data and figure out your entry there, because based on the data we have now, the highest pivot point I can safely say is $7.50, followed by $6.90, and of course, lastly, the $6 area here. But if the phase 2 results are good, obviously $6 is probably not going to be a viable entrance. You're probably going to see this thing run a bit first. So look for those two entrances that I mentioned, around $6.90 to $7. And if it runs higher, look for an entrance at around $7.50. If you can't get those entrances, you're going to have to try to find your own entrance on an intraday level based on what the stock is doing pre-market. And just keep in mind that usually when things run pre-market, if it's an excessive amount, 20-30% is fine, and even 30% is a lot. If the thing's running 50, 60, 70% pre-market, chances are it's going to fall after the open and correlate down a bit. So I would recommend waiting for a dip before buying in if it's running like crazy. But if it's running just a healthy amount, 10, 20, maybe 30%, but that's pushing it, then look for an entrance at those support levels at $6.90 to $7 or $7.50. So that's really all I have to say about DNAI. We didn't have too much of a change today. The only biggest change that we had occurred after hours, and it was that small trading block. So just keep that in mind. It's pretty hard to update this analysis because we didn't really have a new range. I was hoping 690 would break so we could update the analysis on the range up here, but that wasn't the case. So best of luck to you guys on Monday. I'm going to be watching the stock on Monday, looking for it to run, and I'll be looking for the entrances that I mentioned in this video. And of course, I wish you the best of luck. Any questions, leave a comment below. I hope this analysis helped you out. It is tricky to analyze this stock when the volume, the volume was good, but we maintained the same range pretty much all day as we did yesterday. So there wasn't really too much to say. But anyways, once again, hope this video helped you out, and I'll catch you later. Have a good one.